The lecture hall on Stellar Academy Station buzzed with the soft chittering of Kvalix students, their crystalline exoskeletons reflecting the blue-white lights overhead. Professor Zixtaras stood at the front, his four manipulator appendages moving with practiced precision as he demonstrated the proper grip technique for a standard plasma cutting torch. As you can observe, the optimal grip requires 3 points of contact, Zixtara explained, his vocoder translating his chemical signals into galactic standard. The primary stabilizing appendage here, secondary control appendage here, and the tertiary balancing appendage positioned thus. This distributes the thermal feedback across multiple nerve clusters and ensures maximum precision. In the back row, Josephine Cross sat beside Augustine Martinez, both humans barely 6 months into their exchange program at the prestigious Engineering Academy. They were the only members of their species in a class of 47 students representing 12 different civilizations. Augustine leaned over, whispering to Josephine, "Is it just me, or does that look incredibly awkward?" "Shoo," Josephine hissed back, though her dark eyes crinkled with suppressed amusement. "We're supposed to be learning." Professor Zixtara continued his demonstration, carefully cutting through a sheet of reinforced duralloy with the torch. The cut was perfect, a mathematically precise line that would have made any instructor proud. Around the room, students extended their various appendages, tentacles, manipulators, and specialized gripping organs, attempting to mimic the professor's technique. When the practice torches were distributed, chaos ensued as a three-noid student accidentally activated their torch while trying to position their three-fingered grippers correctly, nearly singeing their neighbor's feathered sensory fronds. A Qualish engineer tangled 2 of their 8 tentacles together and had to be helped by a teaching assistant. Even the typically graceful Silvari struggled to maintain the 3-point contact while managing the torch's weight distribution. Josephine picked up her torch, turned it over once in her hand, and simply held it. Her fingers wrapped naturally around the grip, thumb positioned on one side, for fingers on the other. She activated it with a smooth trigger pull and began cutting a practice pattern into her duralloy sheet. The cut was clean, straight, perfect. Augustine did the same, his larger hands dwarfing the tool but managing it with easy confidence. Within 30 seconds, both humans had completed their practice cuts and sat waiting while the rest of the class struggled. Professor Zixtara's optical sensors swiveled toward them. He scuttled over on his 6 legs, his posture radiating what Josephine had learned to recognize as confusion. "Cadets Cross and Martinez," he said, examining their work. "You have completed the exercise." "Yes, Professor," Josephine replied. "But you did not follow the proper grip technique." Zixtara's manipulators twitched. "You used only 2 appendages?" Augustine held up the torch, demonstrating. "Just one hand, actually, Professor. 2 if you count fingers separately, but we consider the whole thing 1 unit." "Why are you holding it like that?" Zixtara asked, his vocoder carrying a note of genuine bewilderment. "The proper technique requires 3-point stabilization. The thermal feedback alone should make single appendage operation extremely uncomfortable." Josephine exchanged a glance with Augustine. They'd encountered this before, the moment when their alien instructors realized that human biology didn't quite work the way the rest of the galaxy expected. "Professor," Josephine began carefully, "humans have very high pain tolerances. The thermal feedback doesn't really bother us that much." "Impossible," Zixtara stated flatly. "The standard torch generates 47.3 degrees of thermal feedback through the housing. No species can comfortably tolerate that in a single appendage for extended periods." Augustine shrugged. "We're from a death world, Professor. Our home planet's average temperature varies by 60 degrees between seasons in most habitable zones. We evolved to handle temperature extremes." Zixtara's optical sensors dilated. Death World was a classification reserved for planets so hostile that they theoretically couldn't support sapient life. Earth had received the designation only after humans had already achieved spaceflight, a fact that had shocked the galactic community. Even so, the professor insisted, the precision required. "Our hands evolved for tool use," Josephine explained, holding up her right hand and flexing her fingers. "Opposable thumbs, independent finger control, proprioceptive feedback. We've been making and using tools for millions of years. It's kind of our thing." Around the room, Other students had stopped their struggling to watch the exchange. A Kvalix student named Shrix clicked their mandibles in their species equivalent of nervous laughter. But the safety protocols, Zixtara protested, pulling up a holographic display. The three-point grip was developed specifically to prevent accidents. If an operator loses concentration, the tool automatically disengages when any single point of contact is lost. Augustine nodded slowly. So, it's a safety feature for everyone else. Precisely. If you humans can maintain single appendage operation, then you lack the automatic safety disengagement. What if you become distracted? Startled? The torch remains active. Josephine felt her stomach sink as she realized the problem. The professor wasn't wrong. The standard grip was designed to fail safe. Their human grip was technically more dangerous, even if it was more natural for them. Professor, Augustine said quietly, humans became the dominant species on our planet despite living alongside creatures that could run faster, bite harder, and claw deeper than we ever could. We survive because we learn to focus intensely on our tools. When a human is holding something dangerous, we don't get distracted. It's not arrogance. It's millions of years of evolution training us that distraction equals death. Zixtara stood motionless for a long moment. Then his manipulators began moving in a pattern Josephine had learned meant deep thought. The Galactic Engineering Guild will need to know about this, he finally said. If humans can operate tools with such precision using only a single appendage, with higher thermal tolerance, and with evolved focus mechanisms. He paused. You may revolutionize industrial equipment design across the galaxy. Shrix clicked excitedly. Does this mean humans could operate tools in environments where the rest of us need full thermal suits and concentration enhancers? Possibly, Josephine admitted. We haven't really tested the limits yet. Professor Zixtara's vocoder emitted a sound the translation software rendered as a thoughtful hum. Perhaps, he said slowly, the question is not why you are holding it like that, but rather why the rest of us have been holding it any other way. The lecture hall erupted in discussion as students from a dozen species began debating the implications. In the back row, Josephine and Augustine shared a smile. Just another day being human in a galaxy that consistently underestimated what a death world could produce.